Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Tea with Tom. Today, we're going to talk about what we need to start doing, what we should have started doing prior to today, actually, and pivoting and starting to prepare for what's coming up next. As Tom says, yeah, baby, we're getting into these opening phases in a lot of states. We're actually in 2 different states. I'm on the West Coast and Tom's on the East Coast there in New York. So states are starting to open up. It's exciting, but now as marketers, we have to be ready for that. So with that, I will turn it over to Tom. And as we go along, please send us your questions.
Yeah, definitely send questions in this time, and we'll answer them towards the end or even throughout. If Melinda jumps in with whatever questions come through. So last week we were starting to hear from the buzz across the news sites and the rumor mill that states and different counties were going to start opening up. So we wanted to make this week's webinar really focused on what businesses should be doing to prepare for normalcy, or at least semi-normalcy, or whatever it will become within the next few weeks as COVID-19 kind of starts to slowly get behind us. So we did a convenience survey. We issued it out through email, through social, personal, through our company pages, our contacts, and those questions were really focusing on what digital marketers, what marketing teams have done throughout COVID-19 and the crisis and the pandemic, and what they're planning to do thereafter once things go to this new normal and this shift starts to take place within the coming weeks. So that was really the foundation of the topics here that we're going to talk about. So we went through the survey results and we picked out what we felt were 5 of the most important stats that have come out of that survey and those results, and we built some discussion points around those 5. So they're on the screen right there. Guts over fear, remote control, cutting the board, be smart with social, and report it. So we'll go through each of these 5 points and we'll explain a little bit what they mean. So the first, we saw from the survey results that 1 in 3 people feel like that their marketing team and their business is going to be in a lot worse shape after COVID-19 prior to COVID-19. And it's definitely scary to think about what we've endured over the past couple months and how scary it might be in the coming weeks or the coming months, and how businesses might be affected. But we can't be scared to the point where we stop our activities, our sales and our marketing activities, and we kind of just let the environment that has been created affect our business. We have to charge forward, and in order to kind of ease that fear, we need to build a plan, and having that in place, having budgets, having timelines, having the tactics, and making those decisions in a smart and intelligent way, sitting here right now, allows you to not to be as scared when you're charging forward and you're actually going through and implementing whatever that work might be. If you don't have that type of guesswork later on, really reduces levels of fear that you could possibly be enduring when those time comes. So what we have recommended is breaking this timeline into a couple phases. Now, if you were savvy enough, you probably should have, and maybe you already have had a plan in place heading into this calendar year. Most companies are on a fiscal calendar, so you would want to have a social media, a digital marketing and advertising plan in place that carries you throughout the whole 12-month period. If you didn't do that, and hopefully you did, if you did do that, then you probably had to shift or stop or pivot as COVID-19 began to take place throughout February. So at this point, things are kind of really rocked and off kilter, and this is the perfect time to really shift your plans and update it to make sure that you can kind of come out of this on top. So phase 1, we're calling this the 3 S's. Sorry, I'm looking at another screen here, not looking away from you guys. Set up, select, and be seen. The 3 S's: set up, select, and be seen. You want to make sure that you set up all of your channels or updated all of your channels, set up all of your advertising platforms, set up all of your reporting and analytics, and making sure that everything is in place to capture what it needs to capture. And that includes your pixel tracking. So we'll get into advertising and remarketing in just a little bit. But in order to capture that remarketing audience, you need to first install that code And you want to do that as soon as possible, because that's it's not retroactive. You want to be populating that audience inside of your advertising platforms, and setting that up as soon as you can is highly important. So after you do all that setup work, you're going to select what those ads might be and select those ad platforms, and be seen as the third S, because in phase one, you want to make sure that you're really raising awareness and building brand awareness for your company. And we talked about this in the past couple webinars, because this is so important. If there's still a lot of people that are hesitant on spending right now, then it's still not going to be wasted dollars, especially with display and video-based advertising, which can come at a pretty good rate, to really build awareness for your brand right now, to kind of prep the top of that sales funnel and get them ready to potentially buy later into phase two, which leads us to phase two, which is what we're going to call the 3 C's: contact, convert, and close. So if you've done all that setup work, you've done all that advertising, that visibility ads, if you're getting traffic to your site, if you set up pop-ups and promotions and ways to capture and gather that information, that contact information, now in phase two, there's really when you're going to capitalize on that information, that data, those folks that are coming into the site, that are coming to know who you are through that phase one period. So again, contact, convert, and close. This is when you want to be really active with your email marketing. If you've built that database, you're going to segment your list. You're going to start pounding hard on some of those emails that are going out to those lists. You want to be changing up your advertising from the visibility and the awareness-based ads. Change up those objectives, change up those target audiences, so that way it's more about conversions at this point. You want to be selling a little bit more aggressively at the point in phase two when people are more ready than they are today, and that compared to what they've been in the past couple months. You want to make sure that your sales folks are hitting hard, and that you're delivering them from the marketing side. You're delivering the sales folks with hot leads, and you're able to identify if they are hot leads based on the technology and the software that you have in place that you previously set up in phase one. So phase one, set up, select, be seen. Phase two, contact, convert, and close. And if you have that plan in place and you have that timeline in place, you can do a better job of kind of charging forward throughout this period, and hopefully you won't be as nervous as the 33% that feel that they're going to be in worse shape after this kind of goes back to normal. Melinda, anything else on that topic?
No, I think it's just important to plan and to start implementing now. So start getting in front, if you haven't already, through the last 6-8 weeks. People, we know through industry trends, people are trying to find their brands and want to interact with their brands and want to hear from their brands, even if it's a message simply saying, hey, we're opening up in 2 weeks. Oh, we just found out, we actually get to open up earlier. Things change constantly. I know, like we said, we're in different areas. We found out on Thursday, oh, things are opening up on Saturday, 2 days later. So yes, we have to be reactive, but we can also plan some of that. So I think it's very important to start planning and implementing those plans now.
For sure, for sure. All right, topic 2, remote control. This was a question that came up in the survey. 80% of companies have begun operating remotely. And any business that was non-essential, that was really your only option, just like SiteSeeker, and how we've begun operating totally remote. But what I think is going to happen, what I really feel is going to happen, is a lot of these businesses have become accustomed to this remote environment, and a lot of them are probably going to continue on, maybe not in a total capacity where every employee is remote, but I think that the learnings that we've been able to attain throughout these past 2 months and the comfort level that we've gained throughout using a lot of these technologies is really going to be here to stay. And it makes us as individuals and as companies a lot more agile and flexible, and we can meet regardless of travel plans. We can hopefully save on costs related to rent, heat, cleaning costs inside of our offices and our facilities, and all those different type of cost savings. And I think that a lot of these digital technologies, from software like GoToMeeting that we're on now, or GoToWebinar, Google Hangouts, Zoom, project and task management tools that might have been notepads before, or just conversations at the K-Cup machine, digital proposal software like PandaDocs. There's a lot of technologies that are out there that we've begun using over the past 2 months that probably a lot of people and a lot of companies hadn't had to use before if they were still using a lot of antiquated systems and software. And there's been a lot of learning. I think that we're going to see them take advantage of this long term and hopefully permanently. And that makes us better marketers, that makes us better sales folks, and I think that makes us better just business professionals in general. So a couple other software that I'm going to call out too is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I did a whole training session on it. We brought it up in a couple other meetings, and I think that, you know, with sales really taking the biggest blow when it comes to this remote environment, because they're used to pounding, you know, the pavement and going to trade shows, and they're used to that interpersonal face-to-face communication. They've really suffered the biggest blow when we think about it, and they've, you know, really needed to take advantage of tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator and other digital prospecting tools to be able to find leads and be able to interact with them through digital communication, and that's a really important one. And I think that creating a lot of digital media assets, because you don't have that face-to-face interaction, you have to rely on material, you know, rich learning, educational, research-based material that you can send to influence and encourage the folks that you're trying to sell to do business with you, all in a virtual capacity. So I think that a lot of sales folks, a lot of marketing folk have become a lot more, you know, comfortable with building those digital assets they previously, you know, didn't really pay as much attention to. Hopefully they paid a little bit of attention to it, but, you know, this the only thing that you can send and communicate and present with now, because you don't have anything that's in print and nothing that's face-to-face at this point. So 80% have gone remote, and I think that a large percentage of that is probably going to continue to operate in a remote capacity. Maybe not fully, not full time, but I think that we're going to see a lot of businesses being a lot more comfortable with remote interactions now. Okay, number 3, we're going to call this cutting the board, which is my play on of cutting the cord because it rhymes. So 40% of businesses who took the survey are beginning to adopt more digital tactics and feel that they're going to invest in more digital tactics, you know, post COVID-19. 40% feel they're going to be involved more digitally than they were before. Now, this is actually a little surprising to me, because one of the questions asked about if you feel you'll go, you know, to a total digital solution, you know, no traditional advertising, if you'll be a total 100% digitally advertising focused, and 0% said that that would be the case, which means everyone feels that they're going to have some forms of traditional marketing, traditional advertising in their mix, you know, after normalcy begins to take place. I've worked with some people, I've talked to some people who have already gone and shifted towards 100% digital marketing mix. So that was a little shocking to me that it was 0%, but it does, you know, beg the point that digital advertising warrants so many more benefits over traditional advertising. And it really is because it boils down to the ability to track accurately and be able to target in a really complex manner, and also because you can make changes on the fly in real time. So we're looking at more traditional advertising methods like billboards, bus wraps, terrestrial radio, print, newspaper, and magazines. We know that there's still companies out there spending quite a few dollars on these traditional tactics, and some of them might work. And I always want to raise that point that it is possible that traditional methods can work, but the problem that can't be argued is the fact that it's very difficult and sometimes impossible to track it. So at the end of the day, you can't say with 100% confidence that this worked or that this did not work, which you can do with digital advertising. So there's a lot of digital advertising platforms out there, and they range from, you know, multiple platforms inside of, you know, search, display, video and audio, and social. So those are kind of the 4 tiers that I always like to group our platforms under one of those main tiers. So search, display, video, audio, and social. And I'm not going to go too far into the details of those platforms, because Melinda and I think that we're going to, you know, reserve that topic, because there's so much to talk about in this topic alone, for a webinar in 2 weeks, and it'll be focused just purely on digital advertising. But really, the beauty is that you can take advantage of the targeting parameters inside. You can go after your audience in a really niche manner, and spend dollars only on the folks that you want to be speaking to. And that's the biggest drawback when it comes to traditional ads, because you don't have full control over who's seeing those. You know, if they're somebody on a bike driving by a bus wrap, or somebody that's watching, you know, broadcast TV, there's such a lack of control there. And, you know, the spend based on your ability to control and make updates and make tweaks, it puts you in a real disadvantage compared to digital advertising. And we're really passionate about it. That's something that SiteSeeker, you know, has done for quite some time. So more to come on that in a couple of weeks when we do our separate webinar on that. Melinda, anything to add on that topic? Will I take a sip again?
Yeah, well, I guess to your point, we saw a lot of success. We ran for 30 days, an end of the year campaign last year. We used a video for that, and we knew that that video alone had seen 250,000 impressions. So again, to your point, if somebody was driving by on a billboard, we may not know how many people in the cars had seen that actual billboard, but we could produce the results and could show that that video got X amount of impressions, and where, you know, was it seen on a television screen? What was the screen size? Where were people seeing it? On their mobile phones, on their desktops? So it just gave us a lot more information, like you were saying, than a billboard or a bus wrap, where we may not know the audience, because again, we picked the particular audience, location, age group, interest of that audience that we wanted to target. So
yeah, when it comes to B2C and B2B advertising as well, a lot of those traditional methods just simply don't work for B2B, because you're casting such a wide net. For B2C, it's more understandable to see the value in it. But this is why, from an advertising standpoint, B2B should already be in love with digital advertising, because they have such tight parameters on who they want to be targeting. And we can drill down, you know, in so many different ways. Just on LinkedIn alone, for one of the partners that we're working with, you know, it's 12,000 folks in a really tight, fine-knit community out in the Chicago region, like 12,000 folks. I could never have that ability to you know, narrow it down that tight if I was doing, you know, TV commercials or even radio. Okay, let's shift our focus to social. My original intention was not to include social media as one of these topics, just because it's so common, and we incorporate social media into many of these webinars. But one of the survey questions asked, where you plan to spend the most time as far as digital marketing goes in post COVID-19. So after COVID and after normalcy, where do you plan to spend the most time? And 78%, 76% said social media. So we couldn't really ignore it as far as that was the single one that most companies, you know, 3 out of 4 companies said that they were going to spend the most time with in digital marketing. So we gave thought to social media, as we do regularly, as we do daily. And I've been thinking hard about why so many companies in the year 2020 still continue to put so much effort into social media, but continue to really fail and struggle with it, and not see the results that they expect or want or think that they're going to have from social media. It's been, you know, it's been crazy over the past 10 years to watch this monster of its own media kind of come out and emerge, and everybody was excited about it, and everybody's been finding all these different ways of trying to do it. And so many businesses do it and do it wrong, and don't see any value, and they still continue to devote time, attention, and resources into it. And it really boils down to a couple key reasons. And these are the reasons that I feel that most companies fail on social. I believe they spread themselves too thin, and or they're not investing in the right tool or the right platforms and the right advertising on those platforms. So for some reason, people feel they just need to be present across social media. They feel like if they have Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube and Pinterest, that it's somehow going to generate traffic and generate engagement and generate conversions at the end of the day. And it's not the case, because if you're there just to be there and you're not able to do a good job on any of these platforms, then it's really going to be a complete waste of time at the end of the day. I've been preaching social media for 10 years, and even as a 21-year-old after college, it's never come out of my mouth ever to be able to say, be there just to be there, because I'd rather see you not be on a channel if you're not able to devote the time and attention that it deserves. You can't fail on a channel where you're not present. You can fail on a channel if you're there and you're not doing a good job there. So selecting the right channels based on your audience is first and foremost the most important thing, but also being realistic about the time and the involvement that and the resources that you can devote to those channels. So let's say you have one staff member and realistically they have shared duties, and you think realistically that you can only do 1 or 2 channels, which is very common, then you're gonna need to close down your Twitter account, close down your Instagram account if you're not posting anything there, or it's really poor quality photography, images, and video. I'd rather see you do really, really, really great work on 1 or 2 and actually see results from it. And beyond spreading yourself too thin, point number 2 is investing the right amount of advertising dollars and the right advertising on those platforms as well. And the social media advertising has been so big in recent years because it opens us up to so many different folks beyond the other advertising platforms that we've referenced. And the ability to target on these channels is just absolutely incredible. But it takes a lot of work, it takes creativity, and it takes testing to figure out what works. So if you have a certain amount of money, you have a certain budget that you can devote to these channels, make sure that it's the right channels that you're selecting, make sure it's the right audience that you're selecting, and give yourself at least 2 weeks at a time to test your audience, your budget, and your messaging and your creative. Because what you want to do is feel really confident in the dollars that you're spending on these channels, and the only way that you can do that is through tracking and through testing. So don't spread yourself too thin. Select the right channels that work for you, that you can realistically do a really, really great job in, and make sure that you're spending the right amount of advertising in the right places. And if you're trying to keep costs down and you're trying to keep efficiency at a high level, there's tools out there that can make your life easier. You got tools like Buffer and Hootsuite that allow for scheduling and intelligent scheduling. So you just populate it and it automatically schedules out at the right time. Canva makes it easy to create high quality images if you don't have Adobe Photoshop or you're not skilled enough in Adobe Photoshop. And actually YouTube just came out, it's in beta still, but they came out with a really, really slick video editing tool built right inside of YouTube. And I haven't even been in the back end yet because it's only some people have been granted access. One of our team members put together a short video for one of our partners, and it's slick, and it took her a couple hours, low cost, because all you need is key talking points and photography. And I think, Melinda, you're going to show it just to see, shows the capabilities of YouTube's tool.
Yeah, let me bring it over here.
Very, very new feature. It should roll out to probably the public within the next month or 2, I'd say.
Get out of here for a second.
I like these breaks because I can take a sip of my lemon tea.
Enjoy your tea. All right. Let's see here, guys. I don't think you guys are going to hear audio, but you'll at least get to see the video that we put together here. Here we go.
So if you've ever used a video editing tool like some of the advanced ones like Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, you know that the transitions and the movement and the edits like that are very, very time consuming. Obviously, if you have somebody that's really skilled in it, they can move a little more quicker than the average person and get a little slicker with it. But the fact that these templates exist inside of YouTube and all you need to supply is the bullet points and the photography, you can really create videos quickly that you can use on social media, and you can create YouTube-based ads that you can then populate inside of your Google Ads network and run ads much more quickly. Because a lot of times that's the preventative that a lot of people say, I don't invest in YouTube ads because I have no content, I have no video ads. So you don't have an excuse anymore. Okay, last point, last topic here. This was the most shocking to me of the 5 and of the survey results. So as far as where to spend your time after post-COVID-19, only 12% of businesses said that they would spend time in reporting and analytics. And this is simply mind-blowing to me, because if you don't have reporting set up, if you're not tracking what's working and what's not, then you're setting yourself up for failure. 78% of businesses that answer the survey will fail in their marketing if they're not doing reporting and analysis. And we're such big believers at SiteSeeker and personally on your reporting methods, because it's just guesswork. If you don't have the right tracking in place, you're just making guesses. And that's really what took place in marketing for 100 years before internet-based tracking methods, because even tracking methods from broadcast TV and the way that we track public relations with earned media, there was still so much, it was still so loose in the tracking capabilities that a lot of these platforms and services set up. But it's not like that anymore. With internet and digital, we can track to 100% accuracy, and making sure that you've set up your channels, Google Analytics or something similar. You've set up your conversion points, so if phone calls, if form fills, if trials, if demos, if live chat conversations, if transactions, if you're B2C, if those are the things you're going after, that needs to be set up inside of your reporting tools. And then, importantly, the reason why you set all that up is when you actually go forth and you execute, and you're doing your social media, you're doing your email marketing, you're doing intelligent print pieces that are tied back to landing pages, if you're doing social media advertising, if you're doing Google ads and display and YouTube, all of that is coming back into your site, and that's where you're going to track it, and you're going to accurately make smarter decisions. You're going to make decisions based on that data, so it's no longer guesswork. You're able to say, this is the creative that works. This video worked better than this video, so we're going to pour more money into this. We're going to say this messaging worked better than others. This audience worked better. This geography worked better than this. Let's double down and invest our dollars here. Absolutely mind-blowing that only 12% of businesses that took the survey said that they were going to put time into reporting and analytics, because everything that I just said for 27 minutes up until this point is useless if you don't have reporting and tracking in place. So that is my summary. We did a full supporting article on this whole topic, which goes into details and a little bit more depth into these 5 topics, which I believe, Melinda, you're going to send out in an email after the conclusion of this webinar. But in 2 weeks from now, we'll have another webinar. We're going to focus primarily on that cutting the board topic, digital advertising, the platforms that you have at your disposal. We'll talk about OTT, audio and streaming, audio and video streaming ads, which is a little foreign to some folks, and we'll go into greater detail there. So I appreciate the time. Thanks for attending. Melinda, if you have any closing words, then feel free.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. It was very good information that was shared here today. I understand that we tried to fit a lot of information into 30 minutes. So the webinar was recorded, as I stated in the chat during the webinar. We will share that, and we will also share the article that is on our website in our blog section. So if you guys have any questions at all, in that follow-up email, I will include Tom and I's email addresses. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you guys may have, maybe that are very specific to your industry. But we really encourage you guys to pivot those marketing plans that hopefully you had in place. And the real key is measuring everything and looking at your reports on a daily basis, weekly basis, especially now as things are just changing so drastically and so quickly. So with that, we will conclude. And again, thank you all for joining us, and we hope you'll catch us in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.